Greetings chess friends, it's Robbie here, and this video is a little introduction into a whole series of videos that we're going to do with regard to the English opening. Now let us ask ourselves the question, why play the move 1c4? And there are various reasons why we should adopt this opening. First and foremost, it is, of course, a strategic opening. And it is my personal belief and my personal chess philosophy that we play chess strategically. Second reason is that it is an opening of transposition. We have refrained from putting our two central pawns into the centre, and we're simply ready to meet whatever system black tries to adopt. And the third reason is that it provides little or no immediate targets for our opponent. We're adopting a position of disengagement, and this can be somewhat disconcerting for our opponent if they are simply used to attacking everything that moves. So these are very good and very valid reasons. We're going to look at all types of systems, the Botvinnik system, the Rubinstein system, the reverse Grand Prix attack, the reverse dragon, the Caret system, the Caret-Parma system, the Dutch, and various generic openings with e6 and c6, and where black fianchettos with g6 and bishop g7. So look at all of those types of systems. Now the base material for the video series is taken from the wonderful book The Dynamic English by Grandmaster Tony Costin, and I thank Grandmaster Costin for providing that material, and I hope that he doesn't mind that we make a video series of it. Now let us take a look at what we shall adopt. We play c4, and generally before we adopt our Queen's Knight, we will play g3. The reason is that it cuts down on a lot of chess theory. I don't know about you, but I personally don't really like learning chess opening theory. I'd much rather spend my time on middle game and end game principles. So generally we always play g3 with the idea to fianchetto our bishop on g2, and then we play knight to c3. And of course our idea is to dominate these light squares in the centre. Now our opponent will generally have two ways of playing. They will either seek to dominate the dark squares themselves with either e5 or sometimes c5, or they will play to undermine our control of the light squares, something like knight f6 and of course d5. So hopefully you'll find the video lessons instructive. This of course is just by way of an introduction, and I'll go on now to cover all the major types of systems that we can employ and we might meet, beginning with the Botvinnik system. Now the Botvinnik system is characterized by the move c4, e5, g3, black builds up a very solid centre, bishop g2, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, and the move e4. And we build up this bind in the centre, making it very difficult for black ever to play the freeing move d5. Play something continues with d6, knight ge2. And this setup characterizes the so-called Botvinnik system, and of course we'll look at that in greater detail. After the Botvinnik system we shall look at the reverse Grand Prix attack, and it looks like this: c4, e5, g3, again building a very solid centre with knight c6, bishop g2, and this move characterises the reverse Grand Prix attack. It's a very simple and very good way for black to try and play. We have closed play as we normally do with knight c3, knight f6, d3, and there are now two general continuations for black. You can either play tactically with the move bishop c5. It's a very famous game that Bobby Fischer won with this line against Sadie, I think it was, Dr. Sadie. Or he can attempt to play positionally with bishop b4, seeking to exchange our queen's knight. So this is the reverse Grand Prix attack, and of course once again we'll look at that in some depth. After the reverse Grand Prix attack, we'll take a look at what is called the 3 knight system, and it looks like this: knight f6, bishop g2, knight c6, knight c3, and again here black has two methods of developing the bishop. You can play bishop c5, where we will play the move a3, and he can, if we take this back, play instead bishop b4, after which we'll play the move knight d5. It's a very interesting and very good way of playing against this 3 knight system. So again, we shall take a look at that with its own video in greater depth. After the 3 knights, we'll take a look at what is called the dragon reversed: c4, e5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, d5, and black plays as if he is playing with white pieces against the Sicilian dragon. And it's a very good way for us to play. We have an excellent system where we will play as in the dragon formation with the white pieces. Play our knight here, and we will adopt this setup here, and it's an excellent way to play against the reverse dragon. Once again, we'll look at that in great detail with its own video. After the dragon, we shall take a look at what is termed the Caret system, and it's characterized by an attempt to play c6 and then d5, and it looks like this: c4, e5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, c6, and here we immediately challenge the centre with the move d4. So this is a Caret system, and we'll look at that, of course, once again in greater depth and detail. And after the Caret system, we have what is termed the so-called symmetrical variation, in which after we play the move c4, black plays symmetrically with c5. And there are many ways for white and of course black to play. Let us just take a look at it generally: g3, g6, keeping symmetry, bishop g2, bishop g7, knight c3, knight c3, 6. And here we play the rather interesting a3. Now, I know there are many ways to play this, but this is quite an interesting way, and it has the recommendation of some very strong grandmasters. So this is a symmetrical variation. A version of this symmetrical variation is the Rubinstein variation, where black seeks to build a bind in the centre with pawns on c5 and e5, and it looks like this: bishop g2, d5, c takes d, knight takes d, knight c3, the interesting knight c7, knight f3, knight c6, castles, e5, and this characterizes the Rubinstein variation. And we shall play against this bind here, knight d3. After the Rubinstein variation, we shall take a look at what is termed the Caret Parma variation, where black gets good play for his pieces at the expense of an isolated queen pawn, and it looks like this. Bishop g2, e6 this time, knight f3, d5, c takes d, knight takes d, castles, knight c6, knight c3, bishop e7, knight takes d5, e takes d, and d4. And here we play d takes c, and of course black has an isolated pawn, but he has good play and open lines for his pieces. Following that, we shall take a look at what is termed the pseudo-Grunfeld system. It's characterized by knight f6 and a quick d5. Looks like this. Quick d5, c takes d, knight takes d, bishop g2, g6, knight c3, and this is the so-called reverse Grunfeld system, and we have good ways of meeting this also, and we'll take a look at that in greater depth and detail. After this, we'll take a look at the Dutch setup, which looks like c4. It's characterized by the move 1f5 for black, g3, knight f6, bishop g2. Here of course black has essentially two main ways of playing. Either g3 going for Leningrad Dutch type system, or e3, or something, e3 is another way for black to play. So of course we'll take a look at that in greater depth and detail. And then we have various generic systems. For example, c4 and e6. Take a look at that. Or c4 and c6, where perhaps black is hoping to get after d4 into a type of Slav. Of course, we're prepared to play the English, so we play, of course, the move g3. So we'll take a look at these generic systems also, and of course we can take a look at things like this, which is generally likely to transpose. So these are some of the systems that we shall be looking at, each with its own specific video, and I really hope to provide some sort of comprehensive repertoire for the strategic player who wishes to employ the English opening. So once again, thank you very, very much for your time. I wish you well with your own chess, and we'll get on with doing these other videos. So take care, and regards, Robbie.